Rodolfo Giacoman is the science of sleep, and he has secrets to staying safe behind the wheel this holiday season. Did you know that driving is statistically the most dangerous thing you do daily? With holidays, winter weather, and shorter days upon us, it gets even more destructive. Join us as a sleep expert, Rodolfo Giacoman reveals insider knowledge on fatigue management. Learn life saving tips to protect yourself on the road this holiday season. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven, safe ride. Let me share a little bit about our incredible guest that we have today. Rodolfo Giacoman is a public safety expert who specializes in driver fatigue. With decades of experience, he leads the North American Fatigue Management Program, which educates drivers and the motor carrier industry on fatigue management best practices. I am so pleased to help welcome to our stage today, Rodolfo. Welcome.
Delighted to be here, April.
It is so exciting to have you because this time of year, it is essential that we know driving techniques that have to do with safety because this time of year, it's more intense, isn't it? When we have weather and we have all the conditions and we have people who have drank more or are under the influence, right? So this is wonderful that we have you here to give your expertise. But let's share with the audience a little bit more about you so they can get to know you more.
Certainly, April. I'm with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, where we manage, operate, and promote the North American Fatigue Management Program, which is an initiative for all the industry in motor carrier transportation, for drivers, for the motor carrier executives, managers, dispatchers, trainers, and their partners, even shippers, receivers, and brokers, so that they know what it takes to manage fatigue and mitigate the risks of fatigue, because fatigue-related crashes are very severe. The reason is usually the driver will not press the brakes. And so if you're driving and you're fatigued, the risks are enormous. And the results of a crash related to fatigue are, devastated and many times result in death.
Absolutely. And so I don't know if you know, I have a law enforcement background, and there were so many cases that involved either sleeping at the wheel or being intoxicated at the wheel. And those were many of the accidents. And when you combine that with icy road conditions or conditions that you can't see, it's just not good. And so when we talk about sleep or fatigue, can you tell us some of the things that you have discovered? Because you've really become this sleep expert. And so what are some of the findings that you've had in order to share that with the people that you help?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I'm sitting on the shoulders of science and sleep scientists, fatigue experts who developed this program. And I've been just very fortunate to carry it out. And what we advise, drivers and the motor carrier public is to watch for the wellness of the individuals that is driving. It's not just about being, having a specific techniques while you're driving. There are those items as well, the training to know what to do if you experience fatigue and recognize, which is very important, recognize objective signs of fatigue while you're on the road so that you can stop driving, which is the best countermeasure to fatigue. Stop, take a break, and perhaps take a nap. But most importantly, you don't want to get to that point. You want to prevent the driver from experiencing that tiredness, that exhaustion. And for that, the North American Fatigue Management Program recommends that you, as a driver, practice 5 keys to wellness. If I may go into them, April. Uh, the first one is uh, being mindful, practicing mindfulness, being in the present moment, taking a moment to meditate, call it prayer, just a little time to take a stock and experience the present moment without judgment and being aware of your senses and your experience. That's the first one. And I think that's where you start as an individual to take care of yourself and center. Second one, which is the most important single factor that affects wellness and longevity, is having positive relationships. It's been shown that positive relationships are a very powerful stress regulator. And you mentioned at the beginning of the program all these things that are happening in the holidays, and they're all adding to stress. More drivers, winter conditions, pressure to make deliveries, lots of deliveries because Santa's coming. And so all of that adds to additional stress. And positive relationships help regulate that when you have somebody to talk to that you can trust and you can.
I want to add something to this because, when you talk about don't drive when you're tired, fatigued, or what have you. And many of us know, and some people don't know, that fatigue is actually right along in alignment with what it's like to be intoxicated. And so driving sleepy is just as bad as if you were driving intoxicated under the influence. You've had a lot to drink or you're under the influence of something else. I don't know, but it is just as bad. And so when you talk about relationships, it makes me think of somebody that you feel safe with that you can hand the keys over to if you need
to. Exactly. And you're right on the money. Both being intoxicated by beverages or any other substance and being fatigued are impairments. You're impaired. Your reaction time is going to be slow. Your way to operate is going to be diminished. And the difference with fatigue is, when you drank and you feel the buzz. With fatigue and alertness is not like an on and off switch. It is a spectrum, and your alertness level starts degrading slowly and slowly. And so when your perception of your awareness state is diminished. That's why it's so problematic. So, but that was the second.
Broke up a little bit. Oh, I'm just saying you broke up just a little bit. So I wanted you to.
Bit slow.
I just wanted to make sure that you emphasize that fatigue, it's not something that just goes away or you can wake up from. It's this downward hill, if I could say that right. So, but if you're in that situation, and that's why you're saying the best thing is to not drive at all. But are there some things that you could do maybe in the moment, like splash water on your face? Or are there things that people could do to help wake them up if they're not in a situation where they're able to stop driving, which is a very rare circumstance? But what do you recommend for that?
All of those tricks that you say, splash some water, turn up the radio high, open the windshield.
Windows.
They're very momentarily. If you're in a long drive, you have to stop, move your body, take a break, preferably with a nap. But even without a nap, that's the only way that you're going to be able to continue driving. If you have to keep driving, because even if you start eating or if you start, opening the windshield or changing the temperature or putting the radio, if your alertness state is degraded enough, you're gonna be operating fatigue, and you may have a micro sleep, which is an awful thing to happen. It's when your body says, you're not giving me the sleep I need, I'm going to take it, because the sleep is a biological need. It's not something we just do because we want to. And so even if you don't have a micro sleep, you may be with your eyes wide open and you're still not being alert of what's happening in front of you. Just like when you missed an exit or you missed the turn, and you don't realize, oh, where am I going? That's a degraded state of alertness. It's called hypovigilance. This small degradation of your alertness state, which makes you make these mistakes and lead you to these severe crashes. So I don't have quick remedies for your audience, unfortunately. I would stick with, as I said, those 5 keys to wellness. I mentioned the first 2, which were mindfulness and positive relationships. And if I just mention very quickly, then the last 3 is nutrition, exercise, and, which is the key to this season, sleep hygiene. You need to get your sleep. And in the NEFMP, we like to say, sleeping, taking care of yourself and managing fatigue, but it's particularly sleep, should be considered a value, not a priority. And the way we make that difference is priority is when, like, in the morning you wake up and you need to get to work. You have a priority of exercising and eating a nutritious breakfast. But sometimes you may skip the breakfast, you may skip the exercise because you're in a rush. But you'll never show up to work naked. Why? Because dressing is a value. The same way you don't show up at work, naked, you shouldn't show up at work without sufficient quality sleep.
That's right. I love it. Rodolfo, so many things I love about what you're saying. And of course, because you're on the Wellness Driven Life Show, is most people do not pair wellness and overall well-being, nutrition, the people that we have in our life and are surrounding ourselves with, and all of those things with safety, right? And so I think it's just brilliant. And I've always done that, and have a safety mindset. Think about life, in such a safety way in order to really have an abundant life, right? And we're not going to put ourselves in situations that put us at risk intentionally, right? And so we also have to care for this body that we have in order to protect ourselves as well. So it's beautiful that you're putting all of this together, and I love that and I forgot the name of the company that you're with, the program. Remind me. National.
I'm with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance.
Safety Alliance. Yes. So
you can just call it CVSA. CVSA.
So, and with commercial vehicles, we have to have our driver safety. I mean, they're not only driving, I call them, well, I should not call them that, but they're huge machines that have this incredible capacity behind them to create a lot of destruction. And so it is truly vital to be on your A game when it comes to that. And you have to teach and have your drivers understand, acknowledge, be aware of all of these things. And so what are some of the things that you do for drivers? Now, if we picture a driver on road who doesn't necessarily have the best lifestyle, because they're driving all the time, they don't necessarily have access or the know-how to have the best nutrition. What are some of the roadway tricks for people who are on long distance or travel or are commercial drivers, of things that they can do to help implement these?
Well, I'll tell you what we tell motor carriers and drivers. First of all, you gotta practice those 5 keys before you even get on the road. So make sure you're well slept, well rested. You get your nutrition, you get your exercise, because those are key. Sorry to emphasize them, but that's the key to a foundation. And that's part of a safety culture in organizations. It should be part of a safety culture in the families of all your audiences. One of the things that we strongly recommend as part of a fatigue risk management system for the motor carrier companies is scheduling and routing that is sound, with sound principles. So if you're traveling, make sure you plan your route. You check the times that you're going to leave, check the time where you're going to stop to take a break, have a meal, breakfast or lunch or dinner, and where you're going to catch your sleep. So planning your route and determining the best schedule for you is fundamental to managing your fatigue, first and foremost. Second, a lot of people who are most susceptible to fatigue are either sleep deprived or they have a sleep disorder. So we encourage motor carriers to screen their drivers for obstructive sleep apnea and other sleep disorders. And last but not least is fatigue monitoring technologies. Most of the passenger vehicles now, the new ones, the new version of those have some technologies that detect if you're not paying attention. And those are very crucial, as you said, because in heavy vehicles, it's, if there's a crash because of the weight of the vehicle, they can make tremendous damage. But the difference between all of us in the motoring public and professional drivers who do that for a living, we all suffer fatigue, but they have it worse because they're sitting most of the day, because they have very limited opportunities to sleep, to eat nutritiously and exercise, and they're under very tight deadlines. So that's why it's so crucial for everybody who's taking a long trip to practice these recommendations.
I love your recommendations, and you should emphasize them continuously. Shout them out, right? That's what we do here on the Wellness Driven Life Show. We're going to move into our first commercial, and when we get back, we're going to continue this very important conversation for this holiday season. Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone, here on sleep deprivation. And we're having an incredible conversation about what that means on the roadways, because the most dangerous thing that we do every day is get inside a vehicle. And so it is truly important that we have these 5 keys. And I'm going to have you emphasize them one more time, Rodolfo. And let's talk a little bit deeper into them, because I would love to know let's talk a little bit about napping, because there's people that say, oh, well, you can't catch up on sleep. So let's talk a little bit more about that. If you don't mind, just briefly going over those 5 keys, and then we'll highlight them a little more.
Delighted to do it, April. Is mindfulness, positive relationships, nutrition, exercise, and sleep hygiene. And yes, sleep hygiene is one of the crucial ones all the time, but especially when you're traveling and when you're under a lot of stress. Because if you're traveling and you're sleeping in a different location, you need to be aware of what affects your circadian rhythm, your what is called the homeostatic sleep pressure, which is the pressure that we start building up during the day as we burn energy and makes us fall asleep and get all the benefits from deep sleep. And so knowing how to manage that is crucial. And sleep hygiene is mostly about managing energy. So when you want to be alert, you should be exposed to higher levels of energy, so that you're stimulated with that energy. Call it food, light, temperature, sound. All these forms of energy will signal to your body that you should be alert. And when you know you're supposed to be resting and sleep or getting ready to do so, you should lower all the forms of energy. Lower the lights, lower the sound, lower the temperature.
Because that's what the earth does naturally, right? And so that's falling back into those circadian rhythms.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it does. So we should be mindful. If you're traveling, you're in a hotel room, Hotels are very noisy. And what I usually do is I take one of the squares of the toilet paper, and I put it one in my ear, and I get another square and put it in the other ear, like earplugs, so that I don't get disturbed while I'm sleeping from all these sounds or the noises from above me, etc. I
That is
also
such a brilliant idea if you don't have earplugs.
I always forget it, man.
Oftentimes, yeah, you
Yeah,
forget. Mhm.
and this one worked
Concert.
really well.
I think it's a brilliant idea. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and the same with lights. I put something under the door so the light from the hallway doesn't awake me. I disconnect the alarm clocks if I can. I just put a pillow on top of it. I usually have extra pillows there. So just make sure your environment is with low energy as possible so you don't get stimulated. Now, we sleep, your audience should learn about sleep cycles because we sleep in cycles. The cycle goes from light sleep to deep sleep to light sleep, and then to something that is called REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And each of these stages have different benefits to our bodies. And we go through those whole cycles multiple times, from 4 cycles a night to 6 cycles a night. Each of those cycles is 90 minutes. And it's important to know that because you were mentioning, what about naps? Where, as I said earlier, nap is your best antidote for fatigue, but you shouldn't sleep more than 20 minutes because if
Mm.
you do, you may go into deep sleep. Usually, most people will not go into deep sleep if you sleep less than 20 minutes. So any amount of time before 20 minutes, it's a good nap because it'll get you refreshed and you
Set
won't
your
wake up like
alarm.
you're lost. Yep. Set the alarm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you may also, if you are very sleep deprived, you may also sleep a whole cycle, 90 minutes. So set it
Mm.
for 90 minutes. But don't sleep more than 2 cycles more than 1 cycle, because if you sleep more than 90 minutes, you may start to clear all the adenosine, which is that neurotransmitter that accumulates as we burn energy throughout the day that makes you feel asleep. And that's what creates the sleep pressure. That adenosine, it's what makes us go into and get the benefits of deep sleep and feel rested. So if you sleep a long nap, more than 90 minutes, you may have trouble falling asleep because you don't have any of that adenosine left in the brain. Another thing, to talking about adenosine, if you are ingesting caffeine hijacks the receptors of that adenosine. So that's why the experts will recommend you to stop taking in caffeine around 2 p.m. if you go to sleep between 10 and 11, to allow for at least 8 hours for your body to metabolize all the caffeine so that you can feel that adenosine that accumulated in your brain. So very important to manage that while you're, all the time, but especially if you're driving on the road, if you're, dealing with all these additional activities and stress. What I said about these 5 keys to wellness, what they have in common, all these five, is that all of them are trying to reduce the physical and mental stress that we go through in life.
Mm. Yeah, one of my favorite ones is the first one, and that's just relaxing, going within, meditation. Those are huge because that is what gets us out of that high stress mode. We're constantly living in a high stress modality this day and age. And so we need those things to do. We just have to go within every now and again to calm ourselves down in order to respond effectively, right? And so obviously when we drive, that is something that we have to pay attention to everything. You're constantly on the lookout. It's not necessarily about you, but you have to be on the watch out for all the other drivers around you, keeping the safe distance, making sure you're having the eye movement and watching your mirrors, etc., and getting the big picture. Of course, I'm really into the 5 keys of defensive driving. And so I love that you have the 5 keys of wellness. And so they just beautifully intertwine together.
Yeah, and April, the reason mindfulness and meditation are so important is because, when we're under stress, a lot of the stress hormone cortisol is secreting, and cortisol is your best friend if you're under attack. It's the fight or flight mode hormone, but it's your worst enemy in the long run. You can't pretend that you have a tiger running after you all day long. And so when you go into mindfulness and meditation, you start activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which regulates your breathing, your heart rate, your blood pressure. And that's why it's so beneficial to your body and to your mind to practice those meditations on mindfulness, because it brings your body to rest. It lowers down your blood pressure, makes you more aware of your surroundings. You're more aware of what you're doing, and therefore is so beneficial for your health and for whatever task you're performing, such as driving, shopping, or enjoying a good, just having a good time with your relatives. It puts you in a better mood as well. That's why it's so important that we actually practice that on a regular basis, not just not just when we dedicate some time. We should try to remember that throughout the day.
So I want to make sure that everyone knows where to find you. And we've had it displayed here on the screen throughout. nafmp.org. Visit the website. It's also in the description below. But can you share with us, are there certain places that people can go so they can have access to places where they can get maybe meditations or ideas on nutrition or any of the things that we've talked about today, or maybe learn more about your services?
Well, I can point you to that same website that you have on the screen, nafmp.org/webinars. And we have webinars on each one of these 5 keys to wellness. And on each of those, we share resources, multiple resources. The material is there. And they can not only access the recordings, but also download the slide deck for each of those webinars. So just go to nafmp.org, and if you don't want to type /webinar, just select webinars from the menu, and you'll be able to get those resources.
Oops, I did a / not that. Here we go.
Yeah, we did. We did the one on sleep hygiene. We did it with Tom DiSalvi, who at the time was the vice chair of the National Sleep Foundation. We did one on exercise with Dr. Mark Manera, who is the CEO of Supply Chain Fitness. We did one on mindfulness with our own editor and writer, and she's also a certified yoga instructor, and she guided us through 3 meditations. We also did one on what am I missing? On nutrition. On the one on nutrition, we pretended that we visit truck stops and went through the menus of the restaurants and see what choices drivers can make while you have those limited choices. And we also visited a supermarket. So all of those resources are available there. And we also write in our Guardian magazine, which is available at cbsa.org. You can just Google CBSA Guardian, and you can get the magazine. And we always have a piece about fatigue management as well. So those are available at the same address as the one on my email, cbsa.org.
CBSA Guardian. Google that. Okay. I think that's incredible. I love that you have all of those resources. And that was a little bit of what I wanted to highlight for people. When you're on the road and you're shopping at truck stops, right? Gas stations, it can feel daunting to eat healthy and eat right, but there are options. And so I love that you really showcase that and kind of walk through it and say, look, these are great choices for you to help give you back that energy for your body that you need during these long trips. Rodolfo, it's been amazing having you on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Is there anything you want to share with our audience?
Just be kind to yourselves so that you can be kind to others in this season. Try to make sure you get all the nutrition that you can get, and keep watching April so that you can live a very, very well wellness-based life. Thank you for the invitation and for sharing me with your audience.
It's been an absolute pleasure. You are so knowledgeable. You've given us so many tips and tricks and new ones that I haven't heard. So I greatly appreciate you. So Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And thank you so much to our audience, because without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So stay safe this holiday season.